On this webcast, we're going to talk about mindset and balance. Balance like a yoga and balance like in business. Let's go. Hi, everybody. This is Antoine Dupont with Katapult.Marketing, and this is webcast number 18 with Allison Ford. Hi, Allison. How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on the show. So for the few people that don't know who you are, could you please, yeah, few people, right? Everybody knows who you are. Could you please introduce yourself, tell them obviously your name, where you are geographically in the world, and why you get up in the morning?
So my name's Allison Ford, and I live in Coral Springs, Florida. So super hot right now. And I get up for a lot of reasons. I get up for yoga. That's how I live my life, in union and yoga. I get up for my kids, and I get up for my husband, and I get up for gratitude, just living. It's huge. Every day is it's amazing. So I get up for my business and all that, but I get up because getting up's just awesome, and it feels great. So yeah, that's why I get up.
Cool. Thank you. Well, that's really cool. I get all that. I get the yoga, your kids, your business. It's a busy life, right? And actually, I think it's a great segue to what we want to talk about today. We want to talk about mindset and balance. So, I've met you through public speaking, and I know also that you're a public speaker and you're a very gifted public speaker. I know you as yoga. I know you as a mompreneur. I know you as a very busy person and active. And I also know you in that space of getting your mindset right and your yoga, the flexibility, the balance and all that. So I think this is a great topic because, and I also know you as someone that takes care of herself. You're fit. You're fit body and mind. I will say, and it's very inspiring because sometimes I can look at me. I am fit in my mind, but not necessarily in my body. I eat the wrong things and whatnot. But so we're going to talk about mindset and balance. So the three things we talked about before we went live, we talked about three things that people should contemplate, start as a habit, or start from or look at if they want to have more balance and improve their mindset around what they're up to in life. The first thing was about, and in that order, which was important, the first thing is knowing who you are. So tell me more about that. What do you mean by the first thing I should do is really, knowing who I am?
Well, so for anyone that's entering into a business endeavor, if you're entering into a new relationship, you're entering into parenthood, which is a huge endeavor. Any of these really big sort of catastrophic things in our life that we enter into, we can get swallowed in these spaces very easily when we don't honor ourselves, our inner voice, our authenticity of how we show up, and really of our strengths and our weaknesses, and kind of seeing ourselves in the realm of that space, whatever space that is. Because the biggest thing you can lose is your honor. That's the biggest price, and really there's just nothing worth losing that, because you will get swallowed in that space when you don't say what you need to say, when you don't show up the way that brought you integrity, when you make a compromise because you feel as though you're cornered. When you, and this happens a lot in business, this happens a lot in intimate spaces as well. So when you don't know who it is that you are, what you stand for, your standards, right? And when you step into that space, you're going to begin to compromise these things because you haven't even investigated what that is. You're not aware enough to know the things that you're still working on, the spaces you can handle to step in, and the spaces you need to stay away from at the moment and then work and then come back to. So when you don't know that in a business,
Mm-hmm.
as you know, you get into some serious situations, and they can
Right.
be financial situations. They can be creative situations, which are huge when other people are coming into that space and you cannot hold your integrity in that space.
Mm-hmm.
It is the most devastating trauma you can go through as a creative. Truly, it'll keep you up at night. When you go into that intimate space with another person and they dishonor some things because they don't even know how to honor you because you don't know how to honor you,
Yeah.
that's a biggie. I mean, that's a big life one. And I think in parenthood, which is the most unassuming of the spaces, when you don't know how to hold space in that area, when you don't know in the areas as a mom, for instance, where am I healed, where am I not healed, where can I speak, and where do I need to find a better resource for my child in this area because I'm still struggling here.
Mm-hmm.
When you can't make heads or tails of that to be the true adult in the room, your children feel that, and they have that energy, and they take it upon themselves to be broken too. Because we have bits and pieces of us that we're always working and fluctuating and moving. But we step into these big spaces where we really got to ante up with authenticity, right? We've really got to ante up to know how we enter into this space to hold that. And if we haven't done that work, we don't have the chips.
Right.
We just do not have them.
Right.
They're on the table.
Yeah,
Knowing yourself is huge.
Yeah,
huge.
and actually, it's some of what you were talking about, knowing you are, is actually also the foundation of my speech. I'm taking that in a different space, but it does start there. Exactly there. It's like if you're not clear who you are, and what you were meant to be, and who you were meant to serve, then it's a conflict. And actually, what goes against that is all the things in life that are kind of like what I'll call self-imposed. Sometimes your culture is self-imposed, your religion is self-imposed, your siblings, your people are calling you to be something other than who you know yourself to be. And it's a conflict. And the second you say, you know what, that's not who I am this, and then just be at peace with it, that's the self-awareness. Everything, I think it brings an enormous amount of clarity. So it's interesting that you have an approach to mindset and balance the exact same way that I have business growth, that, in order for you to grow and succeed in business, it starts with you. You can't, you cannot, you have to be clear. For me, it's the clarity is different. It's like you have to know who you are in order to know who you need. Because if you're not clear on who you are, then you don't know who you need to help you build a team. So that's really a great point. And it's interesting that business growth and mindset balance, we have like something that's synergistically is very similar. So the second thing you talked about, which was very interesting to me, in terms of mindset and balance, was know how to negotiate. So tell me more about that. What do you mean, like, know how to negotiate inside of mindset and balance?
Well, so again, if you don't do that first piece, negotiation is going to be difficult for you because you will back down. You will not assert. You will not have a clarity to know what am I going in this exchange to get, which is huge because, and again, when you don't know yourself and you walk in with that, first of all, your energy enters 10 space before you do. Mm-hmm. So your energy is stepping in way before you ever speak, way before you ever project. Like, that is running the show for people and their impression of you. So in business, it is huge to have this, but I would say that negotiation happens everywhere. I negotiate all day long with everyone. So in business, when we don't know how to negotiate our bottom line, our price, our value, like what do I value, what service do I bring, and what amount is on that, and have I made peace with that? Or am I going to go and nickel and dime and do this whole thing because I'm not firm on what I know that I bring? If you can't go in with that sense of negotiation, the first place, because people don't like to talk about money, but we need to talk about money. Money is a great thing. It's a resource. It helps us and expands things that we can do and dare. So you need to really find clarity in that area to have that negotiation power. Know what you bring that other people don't bring. So if I go into a space teaching yoga, for instance, I know that I bring 10 other things in my toolkit because I was a teacher for 8 years. So I bring in teaching experience and experience with children and parents right off the bat. I know that as a dancer for many years, I bring that element in.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I bring marketing stuff because that's what I have to do for my speaking job. I know that I bring a voice because I have to use my voice all of the time. So I'm not just a yoga instructor. I do 10 other different things when I step onto my mat and when I'm teaching and when I enter into a studio to sell myself, to be honest. And I have to know that about myself. I also have to know about the things I need to be working on as well. So, and I know my value in money sense. Like, what am I willing to say? I'm willing to do this package for you or this course for you for this XYZ, and what am I not willing to do? Where is the line for me? Because I don't want to ever dishonor myself and what I stand for, because everything starts to tumble from there. So in business, it's very, very important that you're crystal clear about these things and that you can speak and articulate that in a second. Because as you know, in business, there are times where somebody wants something that you can offer, but maybe you don't have that on your litany of the things that's on your site, that's on your package, that's on these areas. So you've got to go in there and be right on your toes to say, oh yes, I do that as well. And I have experience in this because here's what I was doing it. So you've got to be quick on those things. And if you don't have a foundation and a core of what you really bring to the table and all of the tools in your toolkit, right, you will not have negotiating powers.
Right.
You will not be able to be quick on your feet and to impress them to go, damn, like this person's like, I've never dealt with somebody who's this assertive and sure. And for some people, that energy brings, you know, it gets in their stuff because they're like, whoa, you know, they're not sure what to do with that. But again, that's how you're going to find the people you're aligned with anyways, because someone who you want to work with is going to respect that. They're not going to be threatened by that. And I'm speaking more in women's terms right now because men like when you show up this way. For women, it's a little more complicated sometimes. And I'll just say that in personal experience. But for men, they tend to, at least in my experience, they seem to like this assertiveness, this pragmatic approach where things are very clear, things are laid out, and you are somebody who really steps up to the plate and you do assert yourself. Not overly aggressive, but just asserting. So knowing your negotiating power when you step in and in the atmosphere in which you're stepping into is really important. So, you know, to have a certain mentality, step into a marketing firm or something like that, then there are certain things you need to bring into that space. If I step into a yoga studio, I know that I have to step in as a yogi as well. And I need to know about these things as well because that's the space I'm stepping into. If I go to pitch to Broward schools, you know, which I've done for PTAs, then I step in as a mom too because they want a mom who's working this stuff as well. So we have so many tools in our toolkit, but it's just to know what am I working with in this space and what is my negotiation and my non-negotiation. Where will I not go? What will I not do? And how can I make sure to think, you know, quick on my feet to have that confidence when I do step in there?
Right.
So we're negotiating all the time. Now, if I'm negotiating with my kids, believe me, I know where I stand in that space too and how to enter in and how to not demand, but invite, how to teach my kids to self-motivate opposed to just place it and throw it on them. How to not be hypocritical and live that life myself so that when they do get 12 or 13, they're not saying, you dare to tell me to live in a way you would never live, because I never want my kids saying that to me. So I make sure I own and check my own stuff, right? So if I'm negotiating with them, it's an entirely different negotiation. I step in with an entirely different energy, but you better well damn know that I know my outcome of what I want to get in that situation. So if I want a behavior shift, I know to go in with this expectation. If I want my children to get one little piece of information, then maybe I slip it in during time for brushing teeth or doing these things that it's just unassuming because I know that's overwhelming for them. So you go in and you pinpoint these spaces. And if I negotiate with my husband, which I do all the time, then I definitely know how to negotiate very well in that area. I'll just say that. So I go in, and if I need to make it a little bit more spicy, then I do that because that's what that's calling for. If I need to make it a little more playful, then I do it. So we're negotiating all the time, right? And to me, negotiation is not a bad word. It's not negative. It's not, oh, I don't want to bring that into my family space. Or like, you should be using this because this is how you get things functioning and running in your home.
Yeah.
And if you are a person who is heart and core centered and you know that about yourself, then you will always proceed with that. So to think we're not negotiating is like one of the first mistakes I think a lot of people make.
Okay.
Because we're always negotiating.
Okay. Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And I would say that everything you said is kind of like you can't negotiate unless you know yourself, which goes back to number one, which is why number one is know yourself. I've heard something that I use often in negotiation is like you can negotiate. Well, that's a business aspect, but I think it still ties into a negotiation. But you can negotiate unless you're willing to walk away.
Yes.
And so it basically, in other words, unless you're emotionally attached. And if you're emotionally attached, then you can't negotiate. And it's kind of like difficult sometimes because, well, we're emotional beings and we're emotionally attached to a whole bunch of stuff. And especially when you're talking about husband and kids and whatnot. But you have to be able to walk away. In negotiating. All right. So that was good. So that was point number one, was knowing who you are. Point number two was know how to negotiate. And number three is work on your big idea. So why work on your big idea is number three, not number one?
Because you've got to have the foundation before you step into grand spaces. Like, you have to have this. So I taught writing for many years to kids. And every single time we would start writing or talking about a piece that we had read or a poem that we had read, everybody wants to get into these big grandiose ideas of what was the big idea of the poem or the big idea of the piece. And they would start talking about that. But then when I was like, you need to get on paper and start writing this and start strategically setting it up as either a 5-paragraph essay, a 6, a 7, a 8, whatever you're doing in these areas, you need to understand transitions. You need to understand grammatical cues. You need to understand vocabulary. Like, you have to have your pieces in place before you can be poetic and make this grand statement where people will really be able to hear you, because you're not structuring it in a way where people are even going to get it, because you're so into the sexy idea of what does love mean, or what is this, everybody wants to get into this big arena where it's like, it's so intoxicating to go there, right? Because that's the emotion, like you're speaking, that's the passion. And we want to go to these spaces that touch that for us, because it's powerful, which is why we want to jump into a relationship, but we haven't done all that little strategic work. So we step in of the whole idea of love, but we don't know how to do those other things. We step into the idea of owning a business and being an entrepreneur. What does that whole thing mean for me, and how does that feel for me? But I have to know the other things first. So yes, entertain your big idea. Yes, entertain the big grand vision. Like, I have a huge vision for my house and how it works and how I want my children to step out into this world, how I want my relationship to function. And it's very passion filled. It's very sexy. It's very big ideas. It's bold, right? It's stepping out into a new way of ownership in your home as a mom. And it breaks so many of the things that people think you need to be doing. So that's a big idea and a concept. But I can't just step into that. I can't just expect for my kids to be self-aware, self-honoring, self-motivating. I mean, that's huge. And I want that for my kids by the time they're 16 or 17 years old, by the way. That's my big idea, for my kids to be that grounded, to step out into the world in that space so that I can sleep better at night, every night. So if that's a big idea that I want, right, I have to do that other work first, because that everybody wants a kid like that. Nobody would say, oh, I don't want a child like that. Everybody wants that big idea, that grand vision, that big thing of a relationship that's moving, functioning, that's sexy, that's empowering, that's all these things. Yeah. We get caught in that. Like, that's the trap, is that we want to go for that big thing. Yeah. But it's the other work. Like, you got to get your ducks in a row before you can truly even start to touch on that vision. And I mean really touch on it in a way that it's going to be attainable.
Yeah.
That really is going to be attainable for you.
Yeah, it's really an interesting approach because it's not like go get a big idea and then just work on it. It's like, listen, you can get a big idea, but if you're not, clear at first, who you are and being self-aware of, what you bring to the table that makes sense to that big idea, then the big idea could be pie in the sky. And this is why I think a lot of big ideas and a lot of people that big ideas become disillusioned. They just, it fails miserably because I don't think that the big idea is grounded, first in who each person is. And what do you provide to that big idea? Because you don't provide everything and you can't provide everything. So you're going to have a team around you. One of the things actually I've discovered is that we are usually attracted to people, especially in business, but we're attracted to like-minded people. So if you are outgoing and salesy and you just, extrovert and whatnot, you're going to be attracted to people like that. And you tend to avoid introvert people that are more reserved and whatnot. And what I've learned is inside of a business, you need a balance of that because the extroverts have a tendency to be more the salespeople and the introverts actually have a tendency to people that get shit done, excuse my French, but they actually are hands-on and they do the thing. So it's a good balance of it. So you have to know where you fit in that. This is really awesome. I really, I think those are good points. Know who you are, know how to negotiate, and work on your big idea last or third after you've done that. That's a great. I think everybody listening to that, I think that would give them. And
you can play with it. You can play with it a little bit. I'm not saying just leave off the table, but just understand that because here's the critical point I want to make with people who get their big thing. Mm-hmm. So look at people who are actors and who've done this immense success. Mm-hmm. Or look at people in business who have came up with this great product. And when these people are not sure of who they are and where they stand, they're swallowed in that world, totally swallowed. And they start pursuing things like drugs. They start pursuing very unhealthy habits because they do not have those boundaries in place. So they start allowing other people to dishonor their space because they don't know how to even honor it themselves. But yet, they did get that big thing. They did get that big act. So it's not to say you can't have it. You could skip these steps and go and get it. But what are you going to do when you get there? How are you going to sustain it and find the balance when you're in a whirlpool of something that just totally did land and did hit? How will you proceed from there? And this is, to me, what people look at athletes. You can look at people who have gotten the cake. They've gotten the thing, right?
Right.
They went and they got it, but they didn't do that other work I'm talking about. And they didn't even think to do that work in most cases. So they get into that space and then they are swallowed. They are swallowed by that thing because they cannot hold their own self-honor. They don't know what that looks like, and they don't have the habits that are based around that. So it's very dangerous, I think, sometimes when people pursue this thing and then they get it and they don't know how to handle it because they haven't done that other work. And it's dangerous. I mean, that's very dangerous for people when they get into that space because it can put you through a whole mind thing that, it can become toxic, I think, quick for people. And so that's why I think for many people, I think that doing this work it's critical because
and do
if you get it, you got to know how to handle it.
And do you help people? Do you have workshops to help people working through that? Do you do your workshops nationwide, just locally? So I guess what I'm getting at is if someone wants to, here's all that, and I'd love to work with Allison. She sounds like she's on the ball. How do people get a hold of you? Do they? I mean, obviously, I have your website opened up here, AllisonK4.com. This is that's Allison's website. But is this something you would you could talk to them, or you would recommend that they go someplace? What's your how can they get a hold of that?
So I do personal like yoga coaching. So it's motivational yoga, and I give people like a yoga practice, like a meditation kind of yoga practice, and then we break these things down, whatever they're trying to get to, whether it be a better partnership, better in parenthood, getting better communication in that area, or in business as well. So I do that on a one-to-one basis, where I make sure that these people, and I don't do a lot of this because I want to make sure that I'm giving people me and giving them the best of me. And I know myself to know that I do other stuff. So I only really do maybe about like 10 people per year, to be honest, to take on for that type of personal mentoring, one-to-one stuff. And I do workshops that are mostly based in yoga. So I do like dance workshops, lyrical dance workshops, where we do dancing, yoga, and mindfulness work. That's mostly women who I do it. I also teach kids yoga, and I teach a lot of these principles to kids to be more self-aware, and I speak to the parents as well, because we always do like a graduation ceremony where we go through what the kids have learned, and I talk to parents a lot about this stuff. And then, they can, they sign up for my newsletter. I give tons of free stuff away, tons of free tutorials on how to improve your communication.
You had me at free. You had me at free stuff.
Yes, I definitely send, and I send updates in my newsletter of like what I'm up to. I have 2 huge yoga projects going on right now. One is an ebook that's coming out next month. I partner with a girl named Ashley Adams, and we're actually doing a hip hop yoga tour. So we're like going and spreading yoga and movement and dance, all these women. It's a nationwide tour. So I'll start putting up those dates when everything's totally final with her. So that'll be coming up this month. But we're doing an ebook together called The Business of Yoga, where it's B2B sales. How do you get out there and get jobs right off the yoga mat? Because a lot of yoga teachers really struggle with this. It does go into mindset of knowing who you are as a teacher, how to approach and find the students who will be aligned with you, how to serve them in the best possible way that you can. We even give you themes for classes, how to set that whole thing up if you're confused and how to set up your first class and you're kind of nervous. And then we go into the business of it. So how do I go and get actual jobs inside of the studio and outside of the studio? Because I do a lot of my yoga work outside of the studio because the money is a lot better. I'll just say it plain and simple. And I create my own opportunities. Right. So I'm not having to teach this kind of course. I can create my own kind of course and go sell this package to a school, or sell it to a PTA, or sell it to, I teach at CrossFit. Like I teach in all different spaces that people, they don't know that they need yoga, then they meet me and then they're like, oh, well, we need yoga in our business. We didn't realize this. Right. And so you step in and you create a space to say, here's an addition to what you're doing, and I will bring tons of value for your group, and then you go and you deliver. So it's all about the business of yoga, and I'm so excited about it. I'm on like 2 chapters and editing right now to finalize everything. And we co-wrote it because she does online stuff. She has an online studio, and so she does everything social. That's going to be another subsection of it. But the first one is just B2B. Like, how do I hit the streets and get income right away so that I can purchase that program or that mentoring that I need? Because I think a lot of people want, people to purchase these things, which I do too. I run it myself, right? I want people to work with me and purchase my packages. But if you don't have a stream of income that's coming in that you can rely on, which is really B2B sales, and going in and securing these spaces and going in and marketing yourself and hitting the streets, going in and doing it that way, so that you can purchase things that are going to really put that investment back into you. I think a lot of people miss that step, and they just expect people to put things on their card or, go do this, and take out these loans. Which, if that's what you want to do and you believe in it, then go ahead. I'm not speaking against that. But I see a lot of people taking this risk and doing this thing, and then putting all their eggs in a basket on a coach and these other things, when you're like, you got to have an income. Like, you got to have a stream coming in too. You have to have that for your own self, for your own experience. And so that's what the book really shows you, is how to go in and create that stream of income right off the yoga mat, so that you're not confused on how to how to get a job, how to get hired in a studio or outside of the studio,
Right.
how to create workshops, like all that kind of stuff that, in yoga training, we don't talk a lot about that because it's just like, that's not what it's about. Where you're there to learn your practice and that kind of stuff.
Right.
You're there to learn the other stuff, philosophy of yoga, the history. So it's not a real businessy kind of place.
Mm-hmm.
So we both are instructors, and we're like we need this. We would have needed this coming off because we're doing all this legwork. So let's just create something to spread this, and it's going to be very reasonable ebook price. It's jam packed with like this stuff that you just I would have never thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of stuff to go out and to market and to place yourself in the yoga world. So we're super, super excited about
That's very cool. Very, very cool, Allison.
Yeah,
Well, listen, we went a little bit over time, but that's okay. It was all good stuff, and we shared some good insights with people. So, Allison, thank you so much for doing this webcast with me. There's been really, really cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so listen, if you like this video, if you got value from it, just please click on like. And then if you know someone that would benefit from watching this video because of the content, talking about mindset and whatnot, please share it. Just click on the little button, tag, put their name in it, and then just share it with them. Now, the next thing is, obviously, if you have a question for either me or Allison, just put it right below in the comment. Now, Allison won't know about it because it's my channel, but I will reach out to Allison and I'll make sure she gets and goes and answer the question. And on that note, Allison, thanks again, and thanks a million for taking the time to talking with me, and have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.